Hello YouTube, this is Insane Monster, and we're here for part 1 of What If Deku was Scar and Lapis Lazuli's son. So yeah, if you haven't seen part 0, I recommend you stop watching now and go watch part 0. It might be a little bit rough, but it's only meant for to help set up. So with all that, before we begin the What If, uh, Happy New Year's, and make sure that you enjoy. Hit it. Now then, we are at the beginning of the anime, but it's a bit different. For one, Zuko lives now near Dagobah Beach, where his family, including Inko Midoriya, with Hasashi Midoriya overseas for work, and his little sister, Imari, are actually living there along with the gems that were a part of his biological mother, Lapis Lazuli's, uh, you know, her comrades, which are a amethyst gem, just called amethyst, though not the one you're familiar with from the Steven Universe show, a moonstone, and tiger's eye. As each of them actually do some work out in Dagobah City, they more or less prefer to do jobs that aren't very public. Mostly because after what happened that caused them to be poofed and stored away for safety, while Scar did what he had to do in order to protect Izuku, since the Nomus were, well, one of the Nomus had a camera that caught a glimpse of his face. So yeah, more or less public jobs, as well as wearing clothing, or at least reforming their forms in order to cover up their gems. So there is that. As the morning starts, Izuku wakes up bright and early before the sun even rises. Opening up his window, he jumps out, and mind you, they are like on the top floor of the apartment building, spreading his wings, heading out to sea in nothing but his swim trunks, which he's grown accustomed to having those as his base clothes, as he dives into the ocean for a morning swim, which has become basically routine for him. And if you are curious about all of his gem abilities, like I stated before the video started, please go to part 0, and the list will be in the description down below. So, he swims around enjoying himself, as once the sun starts to rise, he suits out and flies back to his house, where he is then interrupted by a hero who has a flying ability, who acts as if he should be using his quirk that way. He's gotten used to carrying something special around. Tossing it over to the hero, it's a waterproof license to use his quirk for flying purposes in order to travel. The hero just lets him go, handing him back his flying license. And no, this is not a pilot license. This is a license allowing individuals who have quirks that enable them to fly to use their quirks to get around. Think of it kind of like a driver's license or a motorcycle's license. They'll need to be registered even though it sucks. As he lands in, then hears a yell stating, "You could have brought me with you," as he looks over seeing his younger sister, Imari. Sorry, Izumi. Sorry, gotta keep that straight. So, he remarks that it isn't fair that he gets to go and swim whenever he wants, especially so far out. As he bends down, going on one knee, patting his sister on the head, he states, "Izumi, it's a bit different for me, you know that, right? You can't breathe water." With her pouting and just storming off, getting ready for school. Izuku gets ready and packs up his stuff. He has a couple of things in addition, or whenever he needs to fly, since using his water wings has the tendency of ripping his clothing. He tends to bring more or less a poncho with him so that he can fly without any worries or, flying shirtless. Well, uncovered, I guess you could say. As they're off, Deku flies going to school as Azumi goes to her school, with Azumi being born with a quirk known as pyrokinesis, which is the combined quirk of Inko's telekinesis quirk and their father's fire breathing quirk. So yeah, on the way to school, he sees the villain fight like in canon, which he stops to take notes, since I'm assuming since he can fly and just go everywhere that way, he doesn't really mind sightseeing a little bit, since he could get there pretty easily wherever he needs to go. Seeing that Kamui Woods and Mount Lady, well, the villain is taken out, but Mount Lady stole the victory from Kamui Woods. He flies off thinking Mount Lady seems to be a hero that would get a lot of attention from people with her classic quirk, but I'm not so sure about her taking the victory from another hero who seemed to have had it all in control. Putting his notebook away, he lands in the courtyard of school, going in to put his school uniform on, putting his poncho into his bag. After getting into class, Bakugo tells him, "Every single day you just keep flying here and wearing that ridiculous thing." Izuku looks behind him, seeing Bakugo as he smirks, stating, "Oh, come on. You know that if I use my wings any other way, my shirt would get ripped up. Not to mention, despite what you think, it's actually quite comfortable and I like it. So, there." As Bakugo just clicks his tongue and takes a seat, which is when the teacher comes in talking about the job aptitude test for their future, that to help pick a school that could benefit them in the long run for it. As he tosses it up, stating that they all want to be heroes as they all show off their quirks. Bakugo still gives his arrogant speech, which is then died down by the teacher stating that Izuku also wants to go there as well. Nobody's really that surprised about it. Izuku is known to have two quirks. One is hydrokinesis, and another one is been labeled alchemy, which is what it is. They just think it's a quirk. Though Bakugo is somewhat steamed at this, he doesn't really yell, considering he knows that uh, Izuku is pretty strong. So he accepts that he could be a good hero, which is how I think Bakugo would explain it. After school, Izuku decided to walk home this time, as he felt like he needed to stretch his legs a bit more on land. As he was leaving, Bakugo yelled at him, asking, "You ain't flying home this time?" With him looking back, stating, "I'm just gonna walk part of the way." Ugh. Well, I just need to make sure I don't lose the ability to walk. As Bakugo looks at him, stating, "Yeah, honestly, I would acquaint you more like a fish than anything else." This annoys Izuku for a little bit, as he uses his alchemy to shake up the ground underneath his feet, causing Bakugo to fall, with him smirking. With Bakugo getting up, yelling, "I am going to tear you apart," with Zuko using his right arm to make a dust cloud and just leaving, since Bakugo is always a bit troublesome when he's angry. As he walks, he goes underneath the bridge like in canon, still going the same direction. It's just gonna be a longer distance, and he's only walking part of the way. As the sludge villain comes out, he states that he's trying to run away from somebody, that he didn't know that freak was there. As he sees Izuku, he tells him that, "Sorry, kid, but I need to take your body to hide it." As he goes after Izuku, he's then stopped by some kind of water barrier that's completely surrounded him. As it floats up in the air as a sphere, it gets smaller and smaller, with the water condensing, making it impossible for the sludge villain to get out. As Izuku puts the water ball on his fingertip, he smirks a little bit and decides to spin the villain, causing him to feel very sick and very dizzy, which is when All Might busts in, yelling out, "I am here!" Only to see a very tan kid with long white hair with blue flakes in it, and one red eye and one blue eye. This was actually caused by him mastering his powers over the years. As he asked what happened, he notices that the villain is inside some kind of little bubble and is being rapidly spun around. All Might asks if he can hand the villain over to him, which Zuko agreed to, taking two empty bottles out and holding the water to pour him into it. Handing the bottles to All Might, he lets go of the water. All Might's impressed by this, stating, "Kid, was that hydrokinesis?" Izuku stated, "Yeah, basically. Oh, hey, while you're here," as he hands over his notebook asking for an autograph. He opens it, seeing that he's taken plenty of notes on different heroes. He sees that he's a fanboy, but also that these notes are pretty detailed. and could actually be useful in some cases. So he signs the notebook and gives it back as he just salutes Izuku and jumps off. Afterwards, Izuku sighs, thinking, I should stick with flying. Switching over to his poncho, he begins to fly. As he's soaring through the air, an explosion happens. This was actually because after jumping away, the pocket in which the sludge villain was being held actually ripped open from the sheer amount of force All Might jumped from. He was not wearing his special fabric-made clothing that day. And I'm talking about fabric with able to withstand that kind of force. As like in canon, Bakugo gets captured by the sludge villain. Zuko flew over to see what was going on. Seeing that the heroes weren't doing anything to stop the villain, and he also saw Kamui Woods trying his best to get all the civilians out of the fire area while not trying to get himself caught on fire himself, since his power is wood-based. As for the only hero who could control water, he was too busy dealing with the fires in order to take care of the villain. When he took a closer look, he saw that the villain had a hostage. It was Bakugo. He blitzed over, flying as fast towards them, collecting all the moisture in the atmosphere as he could. Luckily, Japan is an archipelago country, meaning that it's a type of island slash islands country made up of it. So it comes with a lot of humidity, which is pretty good for Zuko in this case, as he brings a ton of water raining down on the place, extinguishing the fires. This causes the villain to somewhat get waterlogged as he tries his hardest to make sure not to let Bakugo through, succeeding at this only to then be met with some kind of weird blue chain stretching out, latching onto Bakugo's arm, yanking him out of the sludge villain. With the sludge villain's body diluted, he wasn't able to hold on tight enough. When Bakugo is finally stopped from being yanked, he sees that Izuku created a water chain to grab him. After that, the sludge villain freaks, trying to run, but is stopped as water begins to surround him yet again, and Izuku creates a thick layer of water in order to hold him in a new sphere, not compressing it because this time he freezes the water. Placing it on the ground, the sludge villain is unable to get out, partially because the parts of him that are sticking to the ice are pretty much stuck there. Similar to how you would expect if you put your tongue on an ice cube and it sticks on there, or a frozen pole. After this, the heroes swarm as scolding Izuku for doing that without a license. But Izuku just looks kind of annoyed and states, you know, if you were actually going to do something instead, then this wouldn't have happened. And you probably should also know that even though it might cause some property damage, you could have at least ripped out one of those signposts, bent it, and used it as a hook in order to rip him out, right? As he looks at Death Arms, with him being speechless at this, but with him following up, if you got the hostage out of him, then that would have solved a lot of your problems, right? As the heroes get pissed at this, All Might shows up in his buff form stating, he has a fair point. There was there were you only relied on physical brute strength to harm the villain and never considered of any outside the box thinking in order to remove the hostage so that you could properly take care of him, yes? As he pats Izuku on the shoulder, stating, you did a fine job, and showed some real heroism, giving a thumbs up. So, as the media began to surround Izuku, he just sprouted his water wings and bailed, flying away. As he undid his ponytail, his hair is quite long, which he likes it this way. Feels right, especially whenever he's swimming. So he flies away and lands in order to catch a breath before getting home, remarking, ugh, that was too much. I can tell those heroes were just fuming at what I said to them, but it wasn't a lie. In no way was I going to deal with that mob of press. Which Bakugo was finally able to catch up, yelling that, you damn nerd, I didn't need your help. As Izuku looks over, stating, well, I'm sure if you used your quirk at max, pointing at the ground, you probably could have blasted your way out of him, though that would have hurt your own arms, as well as caused a lot more damage to the surrounding area. And there's also the fact that if he caught up to you while you were still reeling from the pain, you would have been captured again. You didn't really have much option in that scenario, now did you? Which he just gets mad, scoffs, and storms off, yelling, whatever, I'm not going to thank you. Which Izuku starts to get up, preparing to launch again to just fly home and be done with today. But before he could, All Might zooms past, introducing himself, stating that he would like to talk to him for a second. Though before he could say anything else, he deflated, spouting out blood. Izuku, forming ice crystals in the air, asked who is he and why is he trying to impersonate All Might. All Might just waves his hand, telling him to calm down, stating that he is All Might and that he can explain. Showing off his wound and such, Izuku takes a look, thinking, huh, this is pretty bad. He's been fighting like this for years? Crazy. Afterwards, he tells him about his quirk and that everything about what it is, that he can pass it down to him, and that he wants him to be his successor. After hearing this, he thinks for a moment and remembers a lot of things. Remembering what he found out about what happened to his biological parents, those monsters, as well as signs that there were other gems here that would attack them. He knew he couldn't hide forever. And after that's done, most likely the media caught all the things he did, which could mean that he's pretty much busted right now by those guys that went after his dad and the others while he was barely a month old. Well, yeah. So he had to think about what he could do. But not just for them, but how much good he can do with the power that All Might is offering him. So after thinking it over, he agrees, as All Might states, "Great, we'll start training uh, at the weekend," telling him to meet at Dagobah Beach, which he states, "Oh, I actually live at Dagobah Beach." Which All Might is surprised by this, wondering why is that? Isn't his school a bit far from there? Recognizing his uniform from earlier. He states, "Yeah, but it makes travel time easier whenever you can fly," showing off his wings. As he states, "It's kind of why I need to wear this when I fly," grabbing his poncho. All Might understands, taking a look. As he says goodbye, he rushes away. Afterwards, he meets back home, which his mother and sister ambush him about fighting a villain like that, but are relieved that he's safe. Though his sister then states, "It was really cool how you saved Bakugo like that," with him patting her head, stating, "Thanks, sis." With then the gem stating, "Showing off your power like that will most likely find us." Besides remarking, "I know, but I think I have something to help with that. Though you three are gonna have to come with me." Looking at one another, they're confused, as Izuku tells them when they're be coming with him. Afterwards, when the time came for Dagobah Beats, Izuku met with All Might, as Izuku stated that he needed to talk to him about something. He already decided to leave out the part about his other dimension parents, but had to reveal that his mother was technically an alien. Though after hearing this, All Might is thinking this kid might be a little crazy, with him showing his gem on his back, stating that it's actually a part of my body, and it's part of how I'm able to use my abilities. Well, more like it's the reason why I can use my hydrokinesis. So, yeah. As he then yells, "Guys," three women show up, as All Might states, "Wait, what is this?" Izuku pats him on the shoulder, stating, "I haven't told him anything, but we have something to show you." With Amethyst stating, "Oh, this is All Might. Not what I was expecting." So, does he have some kind of transformation power? With Amethyst's eyes just glowing out of curiosity, Moonstone states, "Well, it most likely is," having a look that he's in deep thought over this. With Tiger's eye just stating, "Does it really matter? If Hazuku said he's All Might, then he has to be. I mean, he wouldn't lie to us." Which the other two agreed. And All Might asked, "What exactly are you going to show me?" As Izuku went on the beach, he put his hand behind his back as light began to emit from his gem. Grips the light, revealing a blue katana. This surprises All Might, thinking, "Wait, I thought you only had hydrokinesis. What is that?" As he puts the sword on his shoulder, he tells him, "It's my gem weapon. Like I said, my mother was basically an alien, though her you could say the only uh, actual physical part of her was her gem. To have me, she needed to give up her physical form. which was made out of solid light. So there is that. Just like them, pointing at the gems. He's confused, asking what? As Amethyst shows off some shape-shifting abilities glowing. And which is when we get to the part where Zuko thinks that it might be better to show him something pretty crazy for him to fully understand. So he ends up deciding to ask, sorry, he ends up deciding to ask Amethyst to fuse with him in order to show All Might what exactly he's, what exactly they are. So she goes along with it, since it's been a while since they trained for fusion, and now's a good enough time as any, since Izuku already told them that they were there for training. As they do a dance, All Might asks Moonstone, "What are they doing?" Moonstone smirks, stating, "Oh, just watch." Using together, they create a gem that goes by the name Lolite. Lolite. With 4 arms and 4 eyes, with a bit of a bluish purple skin texture, showing off their fused form. All Might just jaws drop as they take out their gem weapons, slamming them together to create a scythe. As Lolite continued stating, "This is fusion, something gems can do, but also half gems like me. Though, from what I know, half gems are the only ones capable of fusing with organics like humans. So the gems can't fuse with humans." All Might stop in for a moment, thinking, "Wait, what? He can do this with people too?" As he's just shocked by this. And they show off some things that they can do. Charging up the scythe with its blade glowing, they swing it, creating an energy slash, just skimming over the water. As Lolite continues, remarking that gems can have a number of abilities that you could consider being called quirks. So, when they fuse, a few new abilities might arise as well. But always, the gem weapons will fuse together, creating a new one. Amethyst's gem weapon is a bow staff, so combined with my katana, it creates a scythe. As for anything else, when we're fused like this, we're not necessarily uh, Izuku, and we're not necessarily uh, Amethyst either, but we're not a single person, and we're not one person. It's kind of hard to explain, but it's how we understand it. Old word, something that could be best described as an experience. As Lowlight smirks, Moonstone claps her hands, stating, "Okay, I think he understands. Honestly, I think you might have melted his brain a little bit." Looking at All Might, still with his jaw just open. Just freaking flabbergasted by this. And yes, I know it's an old word, but I kind of wanted to say it. So they decide to unfuse, with All Might stating, "Wait, but why would you show me this?" As Zuko looks worried and states, "Because besides us, there's other gems here. They sided with somebody who makes monsters, apparently. I was too young to know what they look like, but they told me they monsters that had their brain exposed with multiple powers. One or two of them were even able to regenerate. Might froze for a moment thinking about this, thinking that no way he's alive. Worried about this, but keeping quiet for now. Till he has actual confirmation, like literal physical proof, he can't say anything. As he states, so you think these other gems that the villains, right? As Izuku shook his head, with All Might continuing, sided with someone who could make monsters with multiple forms. That is troubling. And if your and if your friend's abilities can match your own, even more so. With them stating that no, uh, his mother Lapis was a unique gem known as a Lapis Lazuli. They all have hydrokinesis. As they continue explaining that Lapis Lazulis were used to use their hydrokinesis as a method for terraforming. One might not sure about how exactly that would work for terraforming. Izuku makes a water blade, launching it at a rock nearby, cleanly cutting it in half, to the point where the rock splits open, showing a mirror-like slash mark of how clean it actually cut. All Might understood now. So afterwards, they, he just begins the training. If those gem things are working with All for One, he is probably the best candidate. Though he can fuse with humans. I wonder, was anyone else like him who was a villain? It would be bad. As we switch over to the League of Villains, who are currently watching the video, where we see Howlite gripping her fist, looking at this, slamming her fist on the counter of the bar, stating, "Didn't die. Lapis, see." With we seeing where we see, Shigaraki looking at her and then looking at the screen, asking what's going on. He explains that their enemy, Lapis Lazuli, seems to have had a hybrid child herself, and this one seems troublesome. Also remarking that it has somewhat resemblance to the man that was with the other three gems that got away, meaning that they also still around. As the door opens with Balor walking in, stating, "Is that so?" With him smirking, saying, "And this would be interesting, especially for what we have planned. We can deal with them later, though, right?" Howlite isn't pleased by this, but at the moment, it wouldn't do them any good, considering their plan. So yeah, which is when Poly Blue and Black Onyx come in, with Black Onyx using her gem stores to drop off some goods she snatched while they were out, telling Kurogiri to get these to somebody who can sell them for a good price. They should fetch some good funds for us, with Kurogiri thanking Onyx. Afterwards, Howlett filled in Blue Agate as well as Black Onyx, what they just saw in the news. They obviously aren't pleased by this. And without knowing if the one that Lapis had a child with was unique, similar to Ballard's father, they couldn't rest easy. As we get to the point where it is 5 months into the training, All Might takes a look at Izuku as he remarks, "We're already pretty well developed. I have to admit, throughout this training, you've even gained even more so development. Quite impressive, to say the least." With him smirking, stating, "Yeah, I did train a lot. After all, my dad left me a notebook about how he trained and such, so I know a good bit of his kind of martial arts. A lot of it is hand-to-hand stuff, especially with restraining enemies, which we've seen Scar and Cannon fight soldiers bare-handed, taking them out with his bare hands, open palm style, but tearing them up a lot. So All Might was pleased that he has some martial arts training, thinking that this could be good in order for him to use up for all. Which is when he plucked the hair, giving him the same speech as in canon, telling him to eat this. Which he's just looking at All Might right now, thinking, what? As All Might explains the process, he sighs, remarking, ugh, honestly. He creates a small water bubble, taking in the air and freezing it, thinking this should make it easier. Looking back at All Might, stating, gonna do it like this, because I really, really don't want to taste hair. It should melt in my stomach just fine, and then the hair should digest. As he swallows the little ice tablet with the hair in it, remarking that, eh, ugh, I still cringe. Ugh. It, ugh. Ice or no ice, it's still hair and it's still pretty gross. With All Might scratching his head, stating, yeah, but it's how it has to be done. With him sighing, remarking, alright, so what now? With All Might stating, now we wait. Before anything else, you need to digest that hair. Afterwards, we can then try your new power. After sitting down for a while and letting it digest, All Might stands up in his skinny form, stating, alright, let's see what you can do. Give me a smash hard as you can. As he charges up throughout his whole body. Considering his body is half energy based, is well developed, as well used to using powers already, he understands the flow of power. As he winds up punch, he throws it, sending off a shockwave of a 100% smash. His body is able to handle it, like I said, not only because he is energy based, well, half of him is, as well as having a more well defined body than what he started out with in canon. But if you remember correctly, even without looking strong, the half gem physiology makes them incredibly strong without having the appearance. So there is that. Afterwards, we see Moonstone, Amethyst, and Tiger's Eye coming in of reacting off of that shockwave, which Inko and uh, Izumi follow as well, out of breath trying to keep up with the gems, asking what happened, with Izuku thinking of something real quick and remarking, oh, I found a new strength in my abilities. as they see light, some energy coursing through his body. They both know that he's half gem, which comes with some strangeness, and every now and then when he pops up with a new power, it's somewhat odd, but they smirk as they're happy for Izuku for getting stronger, but Izumi is remarks that you really shouldn't do that so close to our house. We thought there was an earthquake. As the sea, from the sea closes back up from the shockwave. All Might thinks in his skinny form, thinking that was impressive and shows a lot of potential. Though I'm not sure how this will react to his powers. As everything calms down, afterwards, Zuko then trains in controlling it with its percentage. He can get it at about 10 at the lowest. So at the moment, he can go from 0 to 10 and 100, still needing to properly manage the percentage. So yeah, as the day of the UA exam comes up, he smirks and heads out about 2 weeks beforehand, meeting up with Mina. He apologizes that he hasn't been able to meet with her as much as he pouts, poking at him, stating, "You should be sorry." As he states, "Well, I've been training for the UA exam. I mean, that's what you've been doing, right?" As he uh, puts her hand on her bicep, showing off, stating, "Yeah, of course." As they just enjoy themselves, with Izuku reminding her, "You have been keeping up with your studies too, right?" With her being nervous at this, she nervously says, "Yeah, sure." As he sighs, remarking, "All right, for the remainder of our time, you and me are going to be studying, and I'm going to make sure you pass." But they're saying, "No." And Izuku replying with, "You want to get into UA, right? Can't do that unless you pass the written test and the practical test, remember?" With her saying, barking, "I know, fine." So during this, they begin training. Well, they begin their study training, since putting training in the name is the only way that it would make it easier for Mina to do, and would be the most accurate, giving Mina's intense dislike for the educational studying. So yeah, once the day of the UA exam came up, Izuku and Mina met up at the gates of UA, walking up talking about what they think might happen. They still go to different schools, obviously, as we then see Bakugo walking up from behind them, stating, "We're gonna keep chatting, or are you actually just not going to take the test? Because if you're not taking the test, I'll go ahead and take the top score." With Izuku stating, "Oh, dream on." Him and Mina catching up. As they go in and take their written exam, Izuku does do like the actual best in the written exam, partially to being pretty smart, not only for practicing and learning everything he could about alchemy, but also due to the fact that he's seen the gate, which I would imagine comes with a good intelligence boost in order to use it properly. So yeah, which is where we get to the part where we see President Mike explaining everything about the test. Obviously, Ida still stands up, remarking about the paperwork for the test. It seems incorrect with what he's stating. Izuku doesn't mutter in this one since he's focusing, trying to keep his cool, as President Mike explains it. After everything is said, we get to the portion to where they're all scattered about into different groups. Izuku notices that Mina's in his group again, thinking that after seeing Bakugo's paper that they split them up based on their schools so that they wouldn't work with anybody they knew, but didn't consider people from different schools knowing each other. He just smirked as he gets stretched, wearing his swim trunks and a poncho. Ida remarks, "Are you really wearing that for this? Seems somewhat lax, don't you think?" With Izuku stating, "Eh, it will make sense once the exam starts." With President Mike yelling that they're starting right now and that there's no countdown is real battle. Izuku sprouts his wings and flies over everybody, and just shocking people as he creates water into the air, freezing it into spikes, completely demolishing all of the robots in sight as he goes, taking out one after another, not relying on All Might's power just yet. Back in the monitor room, the teachers are impressed with the crop of students they have this year as they look towards the battlefield Izuku is in. They see that he is taking out a remarkable number of robots, with Principal Nezu stating, "We may want to funnel in some more 1 through 3 pointers. After all, we don't need it to be unfair to the other applicants." As someone stated, "Yes, sir, we'll do that right now." But we then see All Might looking at this, smirking, as well as Eraserhead thinking, "It's pretty powerful." But power all he has? Back on the battlefield, we see Zuko using some water barriers to stop robots from hitting some of the examinees on the, from behind and such, and then dropping it, allowing the examinee to get the point themselves. Doesn't really care about stealing kills from other participants, even if they're surprise attacks. He can get his own point and find his own robots. At least that's what he's thinking, trying to be nice to the other examinees. Being able to fly and attack from a distance definitely gives him an advantage in this. As he lands, he looks around, remembering how many points he got, which is quite a lot. Though he ends up hearing a rumbling sound. As he looks over, seeing the 0 pointer, surprised about how insane the size of it is. Where all the examinees are just running. The examiners looking in the monitor room, seeing their reactions, which isn't too unexpected, since not many people would have the power to take on that thing. Though before anything else, Izuku hears a yell out as he looks over, seeing Mina stuck under some rubble, quite large, as he tries to melt it away, but it doesn't look like it's going to be fast enough for her to get out of there. He glitches towards Mina, getting in between her and the giant robot's hand. Extending his right hand, he hits the palm of the robot with his, using his alchemy to completely destroy its arm. turning it into just scrap metal flying all over the place. Very, very tiny bits. As he looks, stating, "You're not touching her." He flies up with space and powers up for a 100% smash, sending it flying. While he also used water kinesis to protect Mina, as well as use it to get the debris off of her. Excuse me. With her thanking Izuku, she's relieved that he has him watching her back, with him sighing, stating, "It was kind of reckless of you. Didn't think you'd be the one to get trapped under some rubble." With her head nervously laughing, stating, "Yeah, you think so, huh?" Tries to help her up, only to find that her ankle is sprained. So he props her up over, stretching her arm over him, helping her walk off. As the exam bell stops the test, then we see Recovery Girl come by and come up to Mina and Izuku, asking to see her leg. She extends her leg, showing as he sees that, yes, seems to be sprained. Don't worry. As he kisses Mina using her healing quirk, Izuku is impressed, thinking, "Whoa, that'd be pretty useful. I can only use water to heal myself." Eh, well, whatever. As long as Mina's okay. Afterwards, Recovery Girl walked off, going to tend to other students, which Mina then states, "Hey, are you gonna have me propped over have my arm over your neck the whole time? Or are you just preferring to stick close to me?" With causing Izuku to blush blue, making Mina smirk a little bit, as he states, "Come on." As they went home and wait, after about a week, they got their letters of acceptance, showing that they both got into UA and are in Class 1A. Called each other, talk about it, as they were excited to be in the same class as well as to get into UA. And as they are also surprised that All Might is going to be a teacher there. Now, before the What If ends, we have one more view as we look over to see that in another dimension, we see a small green space Dorito working on a machine, stating, "Done." As he stands up, stating, "Steven, it's done. Took a couple of weeks, after, but we should be able to go after Lapis now." With a young man with a pink colored eye for his left eye with a diamond pupil, states, "Huh, thing was destroyed a couple of weeks ago and you already made a portal to follow wherever it took them. Pretty impressive, Peridot, but you should be able to find them now, right?" With her Peridot stating, "Yes, though I'm worried about the what happened. The technology was meant to traverse through time and space, similar to the warp pads, create a wormhole in order to let non-gems use have their own way of getting from the world, correct? But from what I can tell from these readings, they aren't even in our universe. I've had to make a couple of adjustments and I had to align some things. I'm unaware if we'll end up in uh, the exact span of time that they left, at least by our perspective. Who knows how long it's been by theirs?" As Steven states, well, they are gems. It's not like they can age, so they should be fine, right? As long as they don't get into too much trouble. And besides, Lapis is with them, right? As he also looks down, stating yes, but Amber and her group are most likely there as well. As he sighs, remarking, don't worry, I'm sure they're fine. But you should bring some rules just in case. He states, yes, of course, as they then prepare getting all the equipment ready for their departure. And this is where we'll be ending this What If right now. Do hope you enjoyed. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Set it to all so that you're properly updated. Hope you enjoyed and hope to see you guys later. With everything being said, have a happy New Year's and good night.